Howdy, 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 howdy. Good evening, good night, good day, good morning. I think that Ben does the big intro stuff. I hope microphones and subtitles and stuff are all coming through. Big. I love the couch. Yeah, I was Ben's not here. I can bring in something comfy for just myself. So I have a small little reading chair in my office. I say reading chair. It my foster cat lives in it. So it's I guess it's Casper's reading chair. So it's a little space that I will throw myself down and I will look over notes and stuff. How is everybody doing? It's the first week of Easter holidays for schools and universities here in Ireland. So I have been off the last couple of days and distracting myself with um, everything that's not work. So I figured I might do something productive. And while Ben is away, you'll notice that I am solo on the couch this evening. Ben is away, and I believe everything I've seen having an absolute blast on his holidays. I am incredibly jealous, but I'm looking forward to having him back in 2 weeks' time. So if you saw our well, Ben is away, Declan will play. Yes, Declan will play and procrastinate and put everything off to the last second. Um, I've um, I've decided that what I might do this evening, and it could be quite short. I have a couple of questions, but I did open a kind of a Dropbox for questions on our socials and over on our Discord. And then I will field any questions in chat as well if anybody didn't get a chance to ask about just kind of general TTRPGs, content creation, and using this space. And they're kind of the questions kind of are all over the place. My first one, I guess, was on the Discord server only a while ago, and it was like, I think it went. I'm going to read it out exactly. If Jimmy cracked corn and no one cared, why did he keep doing it? And I think my response to that on the server was, corn is delicious. So I also never understood what it meant by cracking corn. Like I like, how does one crack corn? Um, but regardless, Jimmy, keep on cracking it because corn is absolutely delicious. Um, so I think that's that's the first question answered. Um, but we did get a couple on Instagram, and I got a couple of DMs for stuff, and I think I might start with trying to kind of maybe draw. I've kind of been pulling them together to see where things kind of fit. There was a couple of similar questions, and I'll start there because I think I got quite a few around editing and editing for the podcast in particular. Um, and one of the first ones is what software do I use when I'm editing? Um, I am I use the Adobe Audition software, um, and I've been using it for the last couple of years. I'm not trained, like, as in not Adobe certified, but I was trained in Pro Tools, and then I was using Audacity for a little bit when licenses and stuff were an issue. So I've always like I'm trained in editing, audio and video, and I kind of just navigated to Audition a couple of years ago. The university that I'm with gives licenses to teachers for the Adobe Creative Suite, so I'm able to utilize kind of the full range of that. I predominantly Audition, Premiere Pro, and Photoshop, kind of in that order. For things, so that's what I'm using. I had intended on maybe showing you a couple of screen grabs of stuff, but I spent so long making the solo overlay that I just ran out of time. But I I am using Adobe Audition, and kind of one of the kind of follow-ons to that I would throw out there around it is, if you are using, or if you are wondering how to get started in audio editing, I would not be going out of my way right now to buy an Adobe license at all. And this is coming from someone, I like using Adobe Audition. It's one of my preferred kind of editing tools. But I would suggest pick up something like Audacity, and there's a really nice learning curve with Audacity. It's a very straightforward, simple interface. It's very well laid out, and there are plenty of resources online kind of on how to get started with it, both in terms of reading or YouTube tutorials. I would say, kind of Adobe Audition. It's not it's not that editing is easy, or editing is hard, but you want to make sure that you are comfortable with kind of the essentials first, and then afterwards, Audacity is great because it has a lot of the same stuff that Audition can do, but it's more stripped back. And then Audition is a nice sort of step up. If it's something you're enjoying doing, something you foresee yourself doing for the duration of your content, podcasts, so on and so forth. And then again, there are the Adobe themselves have great resources for learning the software, but there's amazing YouTubers out there. Mike Russell is probably one of my favorite on YouTube. Just really, really well made videos, really, really good teaching tools. And there's always something new that you can learn. So if you are already in Adobe and you're like, oh, I kind of need a hand, Mike Russell is a really good YouTuber to check out. From there, still with the editing stuff, the music and sound effects. Nope, we don't make the music. That's sort of a so the theme song for Romancing the Dungeon has always been commissioned. So we've always hired a musician or worked with a musician to compose those pieces. If you are listening, you'll notice that over the last over the last 2 seasons in particular, season 1 was sort of just kind of a really nice kind of synth chiptune kind of vibe to it. We hadn't quite settled on kind of what we wanted, but we really liked the sound of that. That was by Martin Ryan. And then in season 2, we went way more sort of melancholy, with Haunted by Ghost of Red Mountain. And I love that so much because to me, I've always felt the opening music for Romancing the Dungeon season 2 was the ending music to Romancing the Dungeon if it was an anime. So like the ending credits, that would be the music that will be rolling. And I can kind of see it all in my head. It's this really nice sort of sad pop ballad. I like if you're looking for a musician to collaborate with, Ghost of Red Mountain, you'll find them. I'm not sure if I'm sure they're on Blue Sky at this point, but they were the ones responsible for that. And then if you're up to date and you are listening to season 3, we have Fight for Each Other by Stephen Tynan and vocals by Abby Soiree. And that piece of music to me encapsulates all of Romancing the Dungeon, season 1, season 2, and season 3. It is this absolutely kick-ass belter of a track. And we've commissioned those. We've always kind of worked with artists to make those, whether it's Ghost of Red Mountain, Stephen Tynan and Abby Soiree, or Martin Ryan. We've always worked with musicians to try and find that right sound. As for kind of the music you hear in the show, no, I don't make any of that. We use a subscription-based service for a lot of the music, and we pay a license fee for that. And then so when we had the Patreon at the time, that's kind of what the Patreon was kind of going to support, and helping us kind of pay those licenses and pay those extra bits and pieces. And we The sound effects, though, again, we pull from a phenomenal resource called freesound.org, and we use Creative Commons sound effects from there. And a lot of the times, the sound effects for the soundscaping you hear in each episode are a mishmash of lots of different things coming together to help fill out that scene. And all of the spells you hear. So when Hephaestus casts Burning Hands, or Nate gives Bardic Inspiration, or AJ accidentally casts Minor Illusion, I make all those, or the second editor, Louise, we will make the spells. And that is us kind of working with lots of different effects and sounds. Some we download, some I will make, and we will just hush something together. I struggled for a long time. It was during the Rosgrapers After School special, and I'm pretty sure it was the Entangled spell or something to do with vines, because I could not find a piece of I could not find the right sound for it. So I remember just going outside with my phone and just recording myself messing with some of the branches and kind of leaves out in my um, garden. So I've done, we've done that to try and get a few bits and pieces. Sound design, and particularly Foley, is something I'm really, really interested in, and I love doing when I have the spare time. So a lot of what you're hearing, we are either paying for through a subscription service, or we are compiling and compositing from uh, uh, kind of free resources and Creative Commons audio. And again, sometimes it's attribution, and you'll see we always, if we're using sound effects that we didn't make or weren't in Creative Commons, we always license, sorry, not always license, we always indicate that, and we always give credit to the original producer of that as per the attribution license that we're using. So therein sort of lies kind of a nice direction to the one of the first questions I had about editing, which was, what's the worst thing to edit and what's the best thing to edit? I can say this without hesitation, and Zula kind of goes to what you said there about what my spells might sound like, or what they sound like when you cast them. I absolutely hate making spells, and there's nothing worse. This is the worst thing about editing. There's nothing worse than one of the players just out of nowhere will cast a brand, like they've leveled up and they've got a new suite of spells, and we don't have anything made for those. So I don't sit at home making the full list of all the spells as per what's available to every class, and we have a library. We make them as we go along. So the old reliable Eldritch Blast, the old reliable Cure Wounds, Light Spell, God, they're great, because when they come out, you're like, oh, we have that since season 1. And we have this wonderful library of spells that we've been making over the last couple of years. But then they level up, and then there's a whole new amount of spells, and it's like, okay, I'm in the middle of a flow. I'm in the middle of a really nice structure of editing. I've got a good sort of rhythm to this, and then boom, it's I cast. I don't know. What did I have recently? That, oh my god, yeah, so annoyed. Uh, I there's a. It's actually in the most recent. Not the. It's in my. I'm about to finish the edit of it, but Sam, who plays Nate in Romancing the Dungeon, cast Find Steed, and I spent ages editing that spell, like, because I was like, I needed it to sound kind of like sort of ethereal, as if, like, this steed is being drawn out of magic and just kind of randomly appearing. And I really wanted it to have that sort of like almost like summoning, something in Final Fantasy 10. one of those kind of moments, and I spent ages trying to find the right hoof sounds and so on and so forth. Only, only for uh, only for me to realize that about so I created the spell. I'd spent at least 45, 50 minutes creating that one spell. For me to continue on with the edit and then to have Sam go, actually, yeah, that doesn't make sense. I can't do that. Can we retcon this? So I spent ages editing the spell together, put it into the episode, and then about 10 more further minutes into it, I just realized that, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. Yeah, no, yeah, no. So let's just not do that. So, and like close to an hour of my editing time went on editing this one thing for it to not get used. So yeah, I was frustrated was the word I would use, but it happens. That happens all the time. It's kind of why um, you've heard me say this a couple of times, but I've often felt that Romancing Dungeon is closer to an audio drama than it is an actual play, um, because sometimes we will call for that. Uh, I did Zool have a kind of a sharp whistling sound in it. Maybe Nate would cast it. Oh, he did. He cast it later on, so you'll get to hear it. If I don't know if you're listening to Romancing Dungeon, but he does cast it later on in a later episode. So it can be used there. I've just saved myself the time. That's all that was. Um, but that is for me, that is probably the worst thing about editing. Not the having to um not the having to kind of make the spell and then, oh, it's not being used, but more just that interruption to your flow of, oh, I'm here structuring this really fun narrative and I'm doing a lot of work. I'm kind of chopping sections out and moving bits around and still trying to keep this kind of flow to the story. And that then gets sort of just interrupted by oh, hang on, we don't have a sound effect for this. We don't have a spell sound for this. Okay, I got to switch brains and go from sort of narrative design into like, creative sound design, which is still fun, but the two halves of my brain. And I think Louise, who plays Fia, says the same thing, that is often the worst. It's the worst thing about editing. And then the best thing, because it was a two-parter. The best thing about editing, that's kind of weird. I really enjoy editing. Like I find it really really relaxing, and I do. I find it really, really, really enjoyable. I guess for me, one of the best things is the little things that I get to hear that either don't make it into an episode, or just getting to listen back and hearing, how much people are invested, how much people are immersed, how much people are enjoying themselves, is always a lot of fun. Because you know when you're playing a TTRPG, like, unless it's recorded, it goes into the memory bank, and we don't get to remember all the details. We'll remember the big battle, we'll remember the epic monologue, we'll remember that wonderful moment between our characters, but the quiet times, the downtime, the little banter at the table, all that gets recorded for us, and I get to listen back to that. I've said this before, but and I don't know if Telepathic Neural is still in chat, but in season 1 and kind of season 2, in the early stages of recording season 2, I had noticed that a lot of the times when Sam was speaking or doing something as his character, like as Nate was doing something or interacting with somebody, whatever it may be, Amber, who plays Hephaestus, Nate's ex-girlfriend, would be muttering awful things under her breath, like, you fucking dipshit, you're gonna fuck this up, you useless piece of crap. Like, just like all this really funny little kind of as a character to a character that she despises, just sort of like the same things that we all do, where you're like in the meeting and you're like, I fucking hate this. This is the worst thing ever. Fuck's sake, Jesus, oh, get me out of here. A lot of that was getting picked up on. Um, I, I get that. I get to listen to those things. Then there is I guess the other advantage in, uh, one of my passions is storytelling, and then I sit down with this raw audio, sometimes 2, 3, 4 hours long, as an audio file, and my job is to break all that down and assemble it into an episode, 2 episodes, 3 episodes, and figure out how that's going to flow and how it's going to work. And there's a whole chunk here, and sometimes it is. There's a lot of like, hey, actually, can we check this? Can we get a rule check on the wording of that? And that happens. We cut all that out, thankfully, unless it's often a kind of a table decision where we're like, hey, as a group, as a table, we're doing this from now on. Then I'd be reluctant to keep it in. We don't keep a lot of the rule stuff, again, in the actual show, because again, we said it from the start. If you're looking to learn how to play D&D, we're not the table to learn from, because we're barely playing D&D. We're it's a nice mechanic for our improvisation, but we're not teaching it really, and we're breaking it a lot of the time for the sake of the story and for the sake of characters and so on and so forth. But I am, I guess, yeah, I get the kind of, I get to be creative in the narrative design. So I love the little table moments, and I just love editing. I'm sorry, I do. I know I just gave out about editing sound effects and stuff, but I I really really enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. I know I do not catch everything at the table while I'm studying my character sheet and spells. Yeah, and I that is like, I am just as guilty, Zul, as the DM sitting there, and you're trying to, you know, okay, so they're going to go into this room, but in that room, this thing is happening, but also they need to do this, and they've just asked me that, and you miss things. So I guess for me, it's sort of like, roll tape and get to listen back to it. Um, our recorded game is totally unedited. None of us have time for that. We barely have time to play once a month for 3 hours. Yep. Nope. I 100%. I again, for me, I have it's useful for me because I teach sound editing. In For the record, I'm not saying, and I sit there and I edit the podcast, and that's how I teach my students. I mean, like, the hours I spend editing are kind of going into my craft. And so I go into a classroom with, oh, hey, look, there's this new thing when it comes to sound editing. I've spent the last kind of week or two learning it. And now I can show you guys what this is and how you might use it in your projects. So there's the payoff there for me. There's also this pipe dream of maybe going on a job share, half timetable as a teacher, and maybe making up my hours as a freelance editor in sound. So if your table is ever looking for somebody to edit, not right now though. Not right now. I barely have time to. I barely have time for myself. But it's a lot of fun, and I've listened back to Romance in the Dungeon. I I yeah, it's one of my favorite things, every now and again, to just like go back to the start and like, oh, we started there, and this is where we've kind of come from, and spotting like a little bit of the connections that may not have been obvious at the start, but now they're there, and I get to see kind of original plans in season one kind of unfolding. So yeah, I guess I hope that it kind of uh, answers that. I mentioned a couple of different resources and stuff like that, a couple of different YouTubers or websites for editing. I'll pop them over on the Discord, if anybody is interested, if anybody wants to take a look at those or use them for themselves. They're really really, I can't recommend freesound.org, or the YouTuber Mike Russell for audio editing tips and tricks. So definitely worth checking out. And then, oh, sorry, there was one other question. How long does it take to edit an episode? So now they didn't state whether it was podcast or videos, but we don't edit any of the videos on our YouTube. They just go up. So they're recorded live on Twitch, and we export them over to YouTube as they are. We don't, there the odd time, okay, if a connection dropped and Ben all the Ben and Declan on a roll episodes go on the Homebrew Quest, and sometimes my internet will just drop out and I have to edit that together. So um I'll take the two pieces that are, split, and I'll edit those together. That's it. That's all I'll do. After that, the rest kind of stays the same. I don't do a whole pile of editing to any of the video stuff. Um, Podcast though, that's um, that's a little different. I again, like that question it's a hard one to kind of answer because it's like, how long is a piece of string, and that feels like such a cop out to the question, but it really does depend on the it really just depends on like how long was the episode and what happened in it. So if I can at all, I split the episodes into those um like I'll split a recording. That recording could be 3 hours long. That might be one solid episode that's 90 minutes, and that means trimming off the rest. Or sometimes they become two episodes, two kind of hour and a half episodes that get whittled down to about 70 minutes. Maybe 3 micro episodes, depending on kind of what's come out of it. But the editing itself, it's a couple of days to edit an episode. It's not like Zool, you were saying that your recorded game is totally unedited. I get why that happens because it takes a huge amount of time, and it's not just the sitting down and chopping it up and putting it together. It's the sound design, it's selecting the music, it's mixing it and making sure that the levels are correct. We have a policy where an episode does not go live without the team having heard it. So a draft edit goes out to all the team, and that is whether you are on the like a Romance in the Dungeon special or the main campaign. We try and give, where there's audio, we try and give everybody a chance to listen to it, to go, hey, look, it's been edited. Please make sure you're happy with, one, how you sound, and then two, do you notice anything that we should fix? Like, are there any kind of obvious glitches that I might have missed out on that we should be tidying up? That we probably should have. And that takes time, because like if I give you a 70-minute episode, that's going to take you 70 minutes to listen to it, and we look for feedback. So myself and Louise, depending on which one of us has edited, um, like I never listen to a draft of my own work. I give it to the team, and I know that at least 3, if not 4, out of the gang will listen to it and come back with, I like this, I love the music, but there's actually, it goes off too quickly, or there's a weird glitch, or one of the sound effects is just a little too loud. Those notes are always so helpful, and make it so much easier to fix afterwards then. um if we ever end up in a scenario where and we've recorded kind of like 6-hour sessions, that usually is like a finale or the penultimate episode. We sit down, and as we are recording that, I will put I will put sort of like markers. So it might mean that we continue recording, but we've taken a break. And what I'll do is I will bring down all the microphones, let it record a couple of minutes, pause, and then pick that back up. And then I know, actually, hang on, when I go to look at the audio file in Audition later on, I know actually, well, here's the here's the three marks I made. So I know to cut this part, I know to cut this part, and I know to cut that part. And now I've got, instead of a 6 hour, 7 hour recording, I've got 2 hours, 3 hours, 2 hours. So I go away then and I chop those up and I start editing on those individually. We don't sort of, it's not a case of there's 7 hours and I edit the 7 hours into one episode after the other. They're always cut. It's like the first thing I'll do is I will, if I didn't make a marker, because maybe in the moment we just kept going, and now I feel like this could be a good episode or we do this. That started in season 1. That thing I did. I am a big lover of Avatar: The Last Airbender, and one of my favorite things. I think it's one of everybody's favorite episodes in the entire series. Is the Tales of Ba Sing Se, where each member of the gang go off and have an adventure in the city. And I've kept that. I did that in the very first season of the Tales of Tezrab, and Hephaestus, Thane, Fia, and Nate all had their own little mini episode that were about kind of between 25 to 35, 40 minutes long each. And I liked those because there were individual sessions with each player where we get to see another part of them without the group. I continued that into season 2 with the Tales of Galeshire. And again, we've had some amazing moments in those. The really nice moment with Ivan in the cave with the initials. We had AJ and Fia's date. We had Hephaestus and what happened to her, and I'll say no more. But we've they are these big, really fun little episodes. But when we first recorded the Tales of Tezrab way back in season 1, I didn't put any markers in at all. We just kind of jumped into one to the other, and afterwards that actually became, and believe it or not, what I actually was doing was I'd start with Thane, or Dermot, who was playing Thane. We'd start with him, and then I'd go, we cut to Hephaestus, and Hephaestus is now doing. So we had this like 3-hour recording, and I had to like cut out all the different sections. It made so much work, and I don't know why I did it. I think I know. I do know why I did it like that. I was concerned that if I didn't do it that way, and I had Amber and Sam and Louise sitting there waiting for an hour where they weren't contributing, where they weren't participating, it would be boring for them at the table listening to just a one-on-one session. Now what I did with season 2 and the Tales of Galeshire is I had everybody participate where possible, be the voice of an NPC, and I'll give you some directions. You'll know what you're doing. And we also had it down to a nice little art at that point, because we all knew that these were little taster episodes. These were nice little bite size, jump in, hear a fun story, and jump back out. And they're always, I try narratively to have some part of them there, to have something there. But it does make it does make my life a lot easier now that I put these kind of markers in. I'm so sorry that was 2 questions, and I've already been ranting for nearly 40 minutes about editing. A couple of other questions that I got asked. I've been asked this before, but how did I get started in tabletop games? Many years ago, over 20 at this point. Yeah, over 20 years. I just before college, I joined a forum online for Buffy fans, and it was sort of a play-by-post game where we were all students at Sunnydale High, and we were just playing out kind of Buffy fan fiction, which was kind of my first foray into role playing. And from there, then when I went to college, I joined a gaming society, and they would run regular TTRPGs. And I'd never sat down and physically rolled dice at this point, but I applied for a game, and that was kind of where the bug bit harder. Like, don't get me wrong, I love play by posting games, but um, you're sitting there, you post, but the person you were chatting to is in a completely different time zone, and you're now waiting for them to chime in or uh, wake up and see your post and then maybe get to it before the end of their day. And so it was a bit slower. Um, so in college, I joined the gaming society, got applied for a game, got in, and built my character. And it's one of those things where I look back on it now and I'm like, wow, okay, I shouldn't have played that. I uh, we were playing GURPS, um, and like, really simple system to pick up. I found it became sort of the long stay for me for a while. Became my kind of my favorite system to use when I started DMing. But after about a year of playing, I decided actually I might enjoy running one of these. I might enjoy telling one of these stories. Um, and I started kind of the following year when I came back to university. I really, really kind of enjoyed it. I remember, and I don't know if I've told this story before. I remember a friend of mine, Rebecca, was running a vampire the masquerade, and I got to join it. I got to play, but I was playing werewolf, and uh, it was so I'd kind of started delving into the world of like White Wolf games, and again, love that system, and love vampires, love werewolves. No, sorry. No, I do. They're up there. I was like, I have the books. They're right up there. But I love those games, and I love those systems. And I wrote a vampire, uh, the Masquerade game, based around. This is how gay I was in college. Based around the Moulin Rouge, and I don't like, as in, yes, the Moulin Rouge, but also around the movie Moulin Rouge, where Satine, who Nicole Kidman was playing, if you remember, she had this. I think it was like pleurisy, or I mean, we joked in college that it was black. She problem breathing, and she was coughing up blood. Um, did it ever actually explain what she had? But anyway, whatever disease she had in my vampire universe, it was actually just a blood disease. Um, and she ate Ewan McGregor's character, and that actually cured her. But so I based it all around her as a ruler in Paris, and there was these merging factions, and that was my kind of wasn't my first game, but it was like my first proper kind of thought out kind of story and campaign. And it being in the gaming society, one of the players decided it was worth the time to review me on the college notice boards. And it wasn't an outwardly negative review, but it really hurt at the time, because like they were very critical of my style. They were very critical of um, they were very kind of critical of my approach to it, um, and I remember that kind of like knocking me a little bit, and like I was like, I don't think I want to do this for other people. Maybe I can just have the stories in my head, and that'll be enough. Who does that? That guy did, and to be fair to him, he was a really nice guy, but I don't think he realized that it was kind of one of my first games, and two that again, I always, if ever I DM at events, um, and I'm DMing for a group of people who don't know me, who don't know how I run games. I often kind of make them aware that, hey, look, this might not be the table for you. I tend to be very descriptive. I tend to go for kind of a cinematic style or some sort of television serialized style, where it feels I try, I think that lends itself to more um investment in your character and in the world, but it's not for everybody. And yeah, don't get me wrong, I also learned an awful lot from some of the stuff that he had said, because it was very I would have been very linear in terms of this is the story, and regardless of what we're doing, this is the story. um and I think a lot of maybe a lot of DMs very early on are like that, are very sort of, I'm not going to use the phrase railroady because I don't think that's the truth, but are sort of, hey, look, this is the story, we're all here to tell the story and play the story and be this part of this thing. And there's very, it's not there's no room for agency, but it can feel like there's a little less agency around that table. So I I learned quite a bit from that, and I didn't give up. Um, and if anything, it kind of made me realize that, well, maybe my game wasn't for this guy, or but I stopped DMing with the gaming society, and I just started DMing for friends at our houses. And it was one of the benefits of college, where you would just every week, it was, let's order a pizza and let's go to this person's house and let's spend the next 4 hours playing TTRPGs. Um, and so many of my, and it's if you've followed any charity streams or you listen to the shows, Eilish and Louise were some of my first players. Um, and they're still here 20 years later. Emma is here a good 16 years later. So Louise, Eilish, and Emma they've stuck around. So I think I found my feet with my style and my approach to it, but that was how I kind of got started, and I kept going. And I've always I realized this, like, as I was just kind of reminiscing. I I got asked to DM a game for an event uh, around that. So maybe I just finished college and it was to come back. Um, but I ran a game based on Silent Hill. Again, I kind of made up my own system. I was stealing a little bit from Vampire. I was stealing a little bit from GURPS. And Zool, I need to ask you, what's MERPS? I've never played MERPS. So that sounds, maybe they call them MERPs in the US, or the GURPS here. I don't know. I'm trying to also figure out what that might actually stand for. Role. I know RPS is role playing system, but ME multi essential. Middle Earth role playing game. Okay. Why I uh GURPS is the general user role playing system, or generic user role playing system. I'm pretty sure that's what it was, or that's what the GURPS stands for. Um, I actually, believe it or not, I wrote a character for a Middle Earth game, but it never came to fruition, and I was so upset because I really wanted to play my halfling. Um, GURPS is a D6 system, 3D6. Maybe again, I haven't picked it up in a while. Maybe there's more to it than just D6, but we only ever used D6. When I picked it up and I started DMing it, I only had D6. So I think I actually still have the first D6, or at least one of them, around in the collection of dice that I have elsewhere. On that same vein, around DMing and TTRPGs and stuff like that, there's a question that, let me get it up. what do I like about DMing, and then what do I like about playing? What do I like about DMing? I like getting to tell stories, and I really like being able to. Sorry, this is the disadvantage of not having a Ben here. Ben could have filled in that gap, but I am also his company. It's the other thing I'm missing. But what do I like about him? I love telling stories. I love getting to kind of figure something out in my brain and kind of go, I wonder what would happen in that scenario, and then how does that play out when I hand it over to 4 people or 5 people to play it? Like, where would it go? What would happen? And whether it's Rise of the Forsaken, Saving Grace, Romance of the Dungeon, Marked for Midnight, um, all of what I want to make, all of what I want to do as a DM is just tell a story. And I feel creatively that does an awful lot for me. But I've been thinking about this a lot actually lately, because I've seen it come up a couple of times. There was Ben actually made a comment, and there's channels in the Discord that you might not be able to see because they're other games that I'm working on or developing with people at the moment and are currently underway. But Ben made a comment. Not gonna lie, full on forgot I was playing in a Declan game, and then before that, there was a comment. Let me see, where was it? Y'all get to meet my tree boy, and no trauma will be had. We'll have a good time if I know Declan, and I think I do. And then and one of the other players came back with trauma, Declan, no. And I'm wondering, do I? It's weird. It wasn't. It's not necessarily imposter syndrome, but it's the sort of the paranoid little creative in me who's like, oh no, is my work like is what I'm doing silly, or is it am I a one track pony, or and I know there was nothing meant by any like those comments other than just good fun, and they're all wonderful people, and that. But I think you're like I don't want to say your brain, but I think for a lot of creative people, your brain goes in that direction of oh, is that something that I do an awful lot? And I think one of and I think particularly that comment around the trauma, that trauma joke, is I look for a lot of investment in my games, and it doesn't, to me, it doesn't matter if it's a one shot, like if it's a sit down at this table and whatnot. I want you to feel connected to that character. I want you to feel like you're part of that story that I am helping to tell, that you are helping to tell. And I think a lot of my games tend to have an awful lot of heart and a lot of emotion in them because I put them in. And I personally put a lot of my own emotions into what I'm doing. And I'm very, very fortunate as a game master, as a storyteller, as a writer, as a performer, TTRPG performer, around my table to have very like-minded and similar people, that people who will just switch into that mode, that forget what's going on outside the door behind you, or outside those walls, and come play a game, come tell a story, and you are part of that. You are a big part of that. It's also why I feel like a lot after sessions I'm very emotionally drained, and my brain is kind of firing off in a million different directions. I I often, like, my husband often jokes that like he hates when I stream, because stream finishes at like 10:30. I'm we've clocked off because we check in for about 15 minutes after a stream. So 11:15. So it's quite late, and I can't go to bed straight away because I'm too wound up. I'm too invested in kind of what's happened, and not even in a quick break it down into every little microsecond and every micro interaction to see, and did you do a good job, but more just a unravel yourself from the story and kind of get out of that mindset and get back into this space. So for me, that's a long way of saying I like storytelling. But I like getting to tell those stories with people. What do I like as a player was the second half, or like playing TTRPGs. I like, and I don't know if there's a misconception, and and if there is, I definitely lent my voice to it, because I joke about being kind of the internal DM around D8Dungeon, but I really enjoy getting to play, and I last year I was in a campaign, and I don't know if it ever saw the light because it was for stream. It was with a Tale of D20s, and it kind of went on hiatus, and I don't kind of know what happened to it actually, and the yeah, which is a bit of a shame because it was a lot of fun. Um, Omar from a Tale of D20s is a phenomenal storyteller, or tale weaver as they go by, and that I really looked forward to those sessions, sitting down and getting to play it. I also got to be a character in a different there. What's that Magic School D&D thing that was there for a while? You can tell I'm such a professional DM that I know all these things. But I get the Magic School thing that D&D ran as a module adventure. I was in a stream campaign for that as well, playing a character that I really liked. Again, I like the investment. I like getting to be somebody else. I like getting to play something else. And whether it's a campaign or it's a one shot for a spin-off or a charity event, I find myself getting very invested in characters. And I was always told I was always told two things. I have an overactive imagination, and I'm always way too sensitive. And they were always said to me in a negative way that these were bad things. Don't get me wrong; they can be. Sometimes they can be my own worst enemy. But I also think they're like my best strengths. I have a ridiculous imagination, and that doesn't help my anxiety. But it does allow me to kind of lose myself in that. But I'm also incredibly sensitive, so my emotions are I can't really escape them, and I feel like I feel things, but uh, my husband always kind of jokes, and like not never at my expense, but I was watching a documentary yesterday. Um, I'm going to get the name of it because I want to make sure I get it right. Yes, I think it was on Netflix. The Remarkable Life of Ibelin. It is about a Norwegian gamer who passed away from a degenerative disease a couple of years ago, and after he passed away, his parents discovered this whole other life he had been living online. And when I tell you, uh, yesterday I was not in a good place. After watching it, like I was just my heart was broken, and at the same time I was just so impressed and moved by uh what what a life he made for himself in that. And I found that incredibly, and it's meant to be emotional. On the flip of that, I also cried when Shrek got married because I found that very emotional. There's again, Geek Chic tease in chat. I don't know, T, if you remember going to see Moana together, and the two of us just looking at each other and just wailing during Moana, just completely and totally crying so much. So songs can move me. Yeah, I'm just tapping into those. So as a player, I like getting to. Oh, same, same. As a player, I really like getting to channel those two things, and it's kind of why I like theater of the mind, because I get to see it in my head, and I get to kind of look at that. And I think it was Dahi in, I think, or was it Emma, a member of D8Dungeon, asked the group kind of like, how do you see the games in your head? Like, do you see yourself in them, as if you were playing it, walking around, or are you like watching it like it was a TV show? And I always, it's kind of both for me, like, and like with a third aspect, like that kind of like the GM's aspect, like that God thing, where I'm just me popping in to like change the weather or change the time of day. So it was a God, I've gone off on a bit of a tangent. Surprise. I just like, yeah, like as a DM telling stories, as a player, um, playing the story and playing the character as part of that. So again, if your table needs somebody, if you need someone for a short little investment, you need someone to pick up a player character to help with the direction you're going in, I'm here. I'll do it. If I can find the time, I will do it. So yeah. Um, I there's a question around recasting a movie. I'm gonna make sure I get it right. And then again, let me I want to make sure I have it spot on, because I only kind of took spark notes for this. Where are we? If you could recast a movie with characters from tabletop role-playing games, who would you recast and why? Oh, interesting, because oftentimes that question's asked the other way around. Where, if you could cast actors to play the characters in your games, who would you pick? I'd like, this is gonna be like, I'd love to see the cast of Romancing the Dungeon in like one of those 80s kind of rom-com rom dramedies, like The Breakfast Club. Like, it would be fun to see, Hephaestus, because you can see them already. Like, you can see all of them there in that. Like, Hephaestus is the angsty kind of, not goth, but goth adjacent girl. AJ is the preppy jock. Let's face it, Nate's the dweeby little dorky fella who is just trying to be cool. Fia is your Molly Ringwald. There's, yeah, it would be it would be fun to kind of see them in that. I definitely think the cast of Saving Grace should do the craft. Like, just for the shits and giggles of it, I'd love to see that sort of redone with the cast of Saving Grace. Lord, like, I'm trying to think, Rise of the Forsaken. Where would that go, and what would they do? The joke is to say Groundhog Day, but I don't know where I'd cast them in. TV show wise, though, they do give me sort of, I was going to say Prison Break would be a good one. So yeah, I could see if it's not necessarily a movie that I'd have to cast them in. And TV show wise, they definitely Prison Break or maybe even Ocean's 11 a little bit. It could work. Um, Marked for Midnight hasn't come out yet. That's starting in 11 days. It's starting 28th of April. I'm really looking forward to that coming out and everyone getting to play it. I talked to we had a meeting, kind of a character prep and planning meeting the last day, kind of finalizing a few bits and pieces. So we got to kind of chat about where that's going and what the story is going to be. But it's going to be. I'm curious to see kind of what what happens on it, and where it kind of goes from there. Um, After that, though, yeah, I think that's kind of all of them. Like, I don't think there's uh anybody else or any of the other shows missing. Um, yeah, I think that's everybody. Um, yeah, I think they're all kind of good fits within those parameters anyway. Um, the next question, this is more to do with kind of running games and stuff like that again. Actually, I tell you what, before, because otherwise I'm gonna because the chat's kind of gone past. But Zool, you asked a question: have you ever been in a TTRPG where people dressed up for their parts? And what genre? So, yes. Um, uh, I've done it. I've actually done it a couple of times. Um, so, and now that I think of it, always kind of for charity streams. So last D8 Dungeon Drive, I ran Prom Invaders, which was like a comedy one shot about aliens invading a high school prom and trying to become a queen or prom king or prom queen. And the whole crew dressed up as like what they envisioned their characters would wear to prom, but as aliens going to prom. Um, and I dressed up as the principal. Um, but as we discovered, I was only dressed as the principal from the top up because the rest of me was just wearing shorts. Because it was really warm. It was a really warm July, August for us, so it was too hot in my office to work. So I was just wearing shorts. So from from the top up, principal; from the bottom down, party time. And that unfortunately got revealed on stream when I had to turn around for something. And then yeah, Emily came for me in a big way. That the other previous time to that, then not last year, but 2 years ago, we ran a game of So Random DMs is a show we have here on uh, D8 Dungeon, where every session we are running a modular adventure, but every session one of those players is DMing the continuing story. Um, and I figured, well, let's give it a go as a one shot, and people can donate to swap out the GMs very, very quickly. It was absolutely manic, but I wrote the sort of the prologue to the adventure, to the one shot, which was we were all in a great battle. We were frozen in time, and we woke up in what we believed to be a crypt. But I asked everybody to kind of come dressed as their characters. And I was dressed as a uh, kind of a pleather wearing fishnet tank top wielding fur trim collar skull on my pauldron barbarian type. It was maybe I was just a bard that was trying to pretend to be a barbarian. um and I think the piercings I bought kind of like clip-on piercings because they were also covered in piercings. And that was a lot of fun, and everybody absolutely knocked that one out of the park. That's over on our YouTube channel. um Have we done it since? Before that, then I don't think. Maybe I'm wrong. The odd, like, again, little Santa hats and stuff like that. But the only time I've ever gotten to LARP was in college, and again, it was with a group of friends. It was a charity. Why do I always dress up for charity? It was a charity thing, and I it was a Final Fantasy game, and I was playing an NPC. So I was just playing one of the kind of people the players would meet along the way. And I was in the Final Fantasy X universe, and I was playing what is it? Besaid? A Riku, her people. They had their own language. Anyway, I was playing a shopkeeper from her part of the world, so I only spoke that. And then there were certain words I had, or I was allowed to have, that I could try communicate with the players, and that was a lot of fun. And I was just dressed up as a merchant, and yeah, that was a lot of fun. Gosh, we should do that more. I don't know. I think it's just time, and I'm not particularly good at sewing. I have a very, very talented friend, Melissa, who's a phenomenal costume designer and seamstress, just a master at her craft. So a lot of what I've gotten to wear over the last while, it's been by her design. So I wonder, you might have me convinced, Zool, to maybe do a dress up one shot for charity for the D8Dungeon drive again this year. We'll see. But yeah, it's definitely on my list. Okay. What time are we at? An hour and 12. Okay. There's only a handful of questions left, so it's not that I'll speed through them, but some are straightforward. My favorite class in D&D, sorcerer. I absolutely love playing a sorcerer. And my favorite class to work with as a DM, warlocks. I do special things for warlocks in my games. I absolutely love them. So I like to play sorcerers. I love magic. It's like one of my favorite things to use. I prefer being a caster. I know in the last, when we were raising money for the Irish Cancer Society and the random DMs game that Dahi DM'd, Louise was playing a caster, and she was like, "I'm so out of my depth. What am I doing?" Because she never plays a caster. Louise loves kind of rogue fighter types. And we're the exact opposite there. She's even talking about maybe trying a caster in the next campaign for Romancing the Dungeon, but we're not there yet, so we'll see. Outside of that, favorite set of dice? No. Yes, but no. I'm one of those people that has different dice for different characters, different moods, different kind of games. I have a reliable set of dice that I'm not allowed to roll, because I almost killed the Saving Grace party in the first season. Yeah, Zool, I'm right there with you. Like clerics and druids, and that ability to swap out your spells at the start of the day, class. I've played the last of those two. The last one I played I played a cleric, sister Agnes of the Hotbod, and she was a cleric who worshipped at the altar of hot men, and hot men was the god of all hot men. So her prayers would be her invoking just this list of gorgeous men: Idris Elba, Actually, I think she relied on Idris Elba a lot. I think Michael Fassbender cursed her once when she rolled a nat 1 after invoking him, so she doesn't really pick up on him a whole pile. But she had a bag of holding that was just filled with bonbons, so she would literally she was just popping bonbons and saying prayers and popping off healing word every now and again, all while invoking these absolutely gorgeous men to save her or to help her channel her powers. She was a lot of fun. She was an awful character. She was great crack. But yeah, I don't have a favorite set of dice. I have dice for different characters, and like I said, I have dice for different moods, and then I have dice that I'm not allowed to use. My husband got me a set of dice for Christmas, and I love them. They're kind of beautiful. I don't think I have them at hand, or if I do, they're behind something. So, but there's a kind of a purple a liquid core inside them, and I'm one, a sucker for a liquid core, and two, I'm a sucker for anything purple. So yeah. If I wasn't playing TTRPGs, what else would I be doing? I don't know. I really don't know what else I'd be doing. I have loads of other hobbies. I love baking. I love reading. I love crafts. I will try my hand at anything. That's one of my. There's very few things that I will say no to in terms of like hobbies and stuff like that. So I do a lot of gaming. But I do an awful lot of reading. So if I wasn't playing TTRPGs, I think I'd have more time for those things. So that would also free me up from editing, and I'd have so much time. Might do more traveling. I have a bit of a fear of flying, but I did go on a quite an extensive honeymoon last year. I was flying from Shannon to London to Taipei, and then a couple of days later we went from Taipei to Penghu Island back to Taipei on the same day, Taipei to Tokyo, and then we traveled across Japan for a couple of days, and then Osaka to Taipei, finished the rest of our time in Taipei, and then Taipei to London to Shannon. So that was the most amount of flying I'd ever done. So it's not that I'm over my fear of flying, but I think I'm more used to it now. So I think I might travel more because I definitely have way more time for it. Don't tell my husband I said that though, because he'll make me give them up. There was a question. I feel like I've been talking for too long now in what is a solo episode, but there was a question about tracking campaigns and how do I track them. So I think I might end with this one. And I might even talk to Ben about maybe making it a longer episode. And the answer might seem like a bit of a cop-out, but pen and paper. A DM takes notes at the table as they're going through it. Sometimes I take really good notes, and other times I'm like, okay, does anybody remember the name of the barkeep in that random village I had to this happened last Sunday, that I had to improvise at the last second the name of them and the tavern. No, I mean, I have a vague recollection that it has this sound to it, and I'm pretty sure it was the something rose. But does anybody? Because I didn't write those down. I forgot to write that down, and then it'd be like, oh no, I left my notes at home, or oh, I don't have them. I'm like, shit. Thankfully, we recorded, so I then have to skip through the episode to go, oh, okay, he's called Jacques Bleu, and it was the the red rust rose. Look great, and I have that to go with. So if I don't take detailed notes, then I have the episodes to go back to. But I think maybe towards the end of the campaign, campaign 1 for Romance of the Dungeon, I might show some of the notes that I took, and you'll see them in varying degrees of like, God, that's an awful lot of prep to. Declan, I think you wrote that on a napkin, and I go through these. I go through kind of flip-flopping between that method of like really planning out a session to just going in with kind of 1 or 2 beats and just letting it go from there. And I actually prefer those now. I prefer those sessions where, excuse me, I kind of prefer those sessions now where I have a clear idea of what I want to do, but I don't know how I'm doing it yet until I get into it. And I know who's there, and I know what they can do, and I know what they might encounter. But outside of that, I'm winging it. And I like those. That unfortunately does mean I have fewer notes to go with, where I now try and take more detailed notes as I go through a session. I have actually invested in a new tablet for the table, so that when I'm sitting there, rather than sitting in front of a computer screen and not being able to see my players, I'm going to have a little tablet with a keyboard that I can make the notes that way, that I can put my story beats into that, and then under those beats add the names of things that I should be adding. But I never, and even for this, I have notes. And I was writing things down, and I was taking things off, answering the questions. But I might actually use that to kind of prompt an episode with Ben about sort of designing and tracking a campaign, like, and the kind of the tools that you can use and the tips and the tricks for it. Folks, I genuinely thought I'd be here for. I told my husband I'd be here for less than an hour, but I want to I want to thank everybody in chat for just keeping me company and listening to me rattle on. I know we're short Ben, but he's back in 2 weeks' time. So we might even pick up the tracking campaigns one for that one. But a big thank you for joining me in chat and for your questions, for everybody who submitted questions. And if I missed any, let me know. You can ping me on Discord or on the D8Dungeon social media, and I will kind of. I just realized the subtitles actually make it D800, D8Dungeon. There we go. But you can ping me over there as well if I missed any of those. But I am going to leave it there. It's 9:15, and we have to get up early in the morning because we are heading out for the day. I will leave it there. Thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you all very, very soon. There's no new episode of Romancing the Dungeon out this week, but there is next week. We're back on Monday for Saving Grace, so I will see you. I can't wait for that. That's such a fun session that we left on the last week. So I'm really, really excited to see where all that's going to come out, because we've had some interesting reveals. And I will see you all with Ben, hopefully, in 2 weeks' time. Enjoy the rest of your day, the rest of your evening, and see you over on the Discord.